as we look at, AI, machine learning, and when you look at predictive modeling, I think all of those things will continue to be at the forefront of innovation. Obviously, we have to think about the cost to continue to stay on the forefront of that. Technology develops so quickly, every couple of years. So are we going to be making these type of investments every 2 years that cost a lot of money, and then you have to kind of catch up everyone else?
Welcome to 5 Minutes, your quick dive into the wide-ranging world of insurance, technology, and leadership. I'm Miguel Edwards, and I'll be your guide as we explore these topics that are transforming not just the insurance industry, but the business world at large. Along with sharing observations I've made over the span of my career in insurance, technology, and operations, I'll be chatting with some of the brightest minds in business and leadership. Whether you're a seasoned executive or a rising star, an industry expert, or just curious about how technology is revolutionizing insurance, this is your perfect spot for your weekly dose of insights. This is 5 Minutes. Thank you so much, Dawn Walker, for joining me here on another episode of 5 Minutes. It's such an honor to have a representative from AM Best to join here up on the show. And one of the things I really love about this opportunity is I think a lot of our listeners will know that AM Best does some amazing work for many years, providing essential ratings for carriers. And up until you and I met a few months ago at the InsurTech Hartford Symposium, I had no idea that AM Best offers this service similarly for MGAs and MGUs. And that's where you also introduced me to this really formal term called the Delegated Underwriting Authority Entities, which is a mouthful, but I think what's nice about that is that it encapsulates MGAs, MGUs all in one, and and any other entities that hold a pen. But listen, what I'd love to do is kind of first get a little bit of background from you, and then we'll jump into some of this content around the DUAEs and what it all means to the industry. So tell me a little bit about yourself and kind of what got you into this industry and how you landed at AM Best.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So how much time do we have? So, I've been in the industry for 15 plus years, and I've really had the opportunity to work in so many different sectors of the industry. I've worked for the carrier. I've worked for a broker. I've worked as a client, as a risk manager. Mm-hmm. So I feel like all of those unique experiences have brought me to the point where, I could talk about managing general underwriters and other delegated underwriting authorities, and really bring all of those unique skill sets that I've learned from the various facets of my overall experience. And as far as like how I got into the industry, most people say that they fell into it or it found them. Right. I've most definitely pursued insurance, and it's been great. I love the industry because it really supports a worldwide view. When you're looking, no matter what you're interested in, you can experience that in the insurance industry. Right. So that's the one thing I love about the insurance. And so I've been with AM Best for about 2 years now. I'm an associate director here on our industry relations team, and I focus specifically on delegated underwriting enterprises.
Love it. That's awesome. Thanks for that background. And, you said something that just a little sidebar comment here that I think about quite a bit. I look at a light bulb and I look at a pane of glass, and I'm saying to myself, insurance was so critically involved in every step of all of the things that we deal with in life. And so much so that, and I don't know that, the kind of the regular non-insurance person walking around realizes this, but, life would stop. The economy would stop if it weren't for insurance. So I absolutely share your love and passion for the industry, and I totally get it. But, we've been throwing around the term MGA, MGU, delegated underwriting. We've been throwing that around for our listeners that really don't have a concept of really what that all means. Can you explain what it is to be a delegated underwriting authority entity and kind of the value that brings to the industry?
Sure. Delegated Underwriting Authority Enterprises, or DUAEs, as we like to call them here at AM Best, is really an all-inclusive term, because a DUAE can be an MGA, managing general agent. It can be an MGU, managing general underwriter, but it also could be a program manager or a program administrator, a cover holder, or it just any appointed representative for a carrier. So it really is just like a blanket term for these various entities. From a definitional standpoint, AM Best defines delegated underwriting authority as a third-party entity that has contractual appointment by an insurer or a reinsurer. Mm-hmm. So they're going to perform various underwriting abilities, claims handling, or other administrative functions on behalf of their carrier partner. Now, you asked about the role they play in the greater, I guess, value chain, mm-hmm. and that's very dynamic. So they play a significant role in bridging the gap between insurers and policyholders. So over the last decade, we've seen an evolution of insurance distribution, and we've witnessed this expansion of the traditional distribution channels where policyholders would either go directly to the insurer or they're going to just use a broker or an agent to access that insurance or that particular insurer. That has developed into a multi-channel access. And even non-traditional channels of access, if you will, mm-hmm. that incorporate technology and delegated authority to achieve that farther reach for both policyholders and insurers alike.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. You were kind enough to send me a copy of an AM Best report regarding this this industry and the growth of DUAEs. And I was struck by the incredible year over year growth that shows up in that report, particularly around these entities. What are some of the key factors that you see that are driving this growth? What are some of those and also too the implications for what that growth has in the market? What are your thoughts on that?
No, you're correct. For 2023, direct premiums written generated in the DUAE sector grew about 8.6% year over year to about $77 billion in premiums. And really, this follows double-digit growth over the last few years. Now, the growth, depending on who you talk to, is going to vary because, you have the statutory filings that look at the actual income statement from some carriers that use the UAEs, and that it varies because of late filings. It can vary because of the statutory limitation of 5%, where insurers don't have to report their MGA business if it's lower than 5% of their mm-hmm. total surplus. So that's going to vary. But from our research, we've seen it grow about that 8% mark, leading to $77 billion. And again, like I said, this is following double-digit growth mm-hmm. over the last several years. And this continued growth in direct premiums, which is written over the broader market, is really owed to new entrants in the market. And interestingly enough, the growth was achieved through the beginning of the year, even though there was some capacity issues mm-hmm. and challenges in the market, especially with property and new programs. And what we've seen was that fronting companies and the E&S companies really helped to add momentum mm-hmm. to that premium growth. So if you look at it, fronting companies account for about $15 billion in written premiums by MGAs. And that's just for 2023. Right. And they represent about 17% of MGA premiums supported just by the fronting market.
Right.
So another major factor of recent growth is the number of DUAEs that are collaborating with insurers to write specialty business. This rise in the DUA collaborations is really driving the overall increase in US P&C premiums. Also, the continued top line growth. So the hardening market conditions for some lines of coverage, such as again, property, catastrophe, property, commercial auto, umbrella and excess. Over the past years, they've been driving a lot of business to the surplus line market. Mm-hmm. Really, that has contributed to the consecutive last 3 years of consecutive double-digit premium, Mm-hmm. So, you're seeing that support from newer surplus lines insurers and fronting and hybrid insurers really, again, help to fuel their momentum.
It's fascinating. You mentioned, kind of some of these specialty kind of in offers and programs. That's interestingly enough where I got my start. I actually worked for one of the large three big national or more multinational brokers, one of the big three. And I was in charge of all of the technology for their programs business. And what was really fascinating for me is my first introduction in insurance was essentially this MGA that was responsible for assembling coverages from all different types of carriers for specific niche industries. And that's where I really kind of understood that there was this need for this type of unique underwriting, looking at, for example, well diggers, or whether you're ski lodges, and all of the unique risks, whether it's environmental liability mixed with commercial auto and all of these different types of things. And so there I really see that value to being able to delegate your authority to a group of people who really truly understand some of the specific dynamics of a risk, and then packaging coverages for those insureds to meet their specific needs. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this question, because one of the things that comes to mind, particularly as I think about the incredible growth that you just cited with DUAs, when you think about that, what are some of the risk management practices that carriers need to be thinking about, they need to be mindful about as you think about this growth and just kind of handing over that pen? What are some of the things that carriers need to be thinking about to effectively managing the risk that's associated with this growth?
They need to have due diligence, again, due diligence. They need to have an analytical approach to their partnerships and how they're going to establish a long-term partnership with delegated underwriting authorities. So vetting these partnerships helps carriers not only verify the program's profitability, but it should vet the stability of that profitability. And so they need to determine whether the program's objectives, their financial health, their operational history with compliance, with risk appetite, and their reputation. You want to make sure that that's a good match for carriers. And so with that being said, due diligence really is an underlying risk as the sector becomes more enriched with capacity investment. So the more capacity, the more due diligence.
Got it. That makes sense. You were kind enough to send me a deck ahead of our discussion that kind of explains some of AM Best's process for evaluating DUAs. Is that report and those ratings, is that another mechanism that carriers can use as they're evaluating these entities as far as how well you show up? Because I know particularly as you think about when I was on the broker side of things, we used the AM Best rating as on the carrier side as in terms for market security. These are the carriers that we were willing to leverage. Is that an appropriate use for carriers thinking about using that rating accordingly?
Absolutely. And so, just to be careful from the rate, to kind of like draw the distinction between rating and assessment. It's right. So it is an assessment, not a rating. And yes, to answer your question, your overall question, you're right on the money. This is definitely a tool that carriers can use in their process, in their due diligence process already, that they're already undertaking, that they want to look at maybe a deeper look at their financial strength, when they want to look at some of their underwriting practices, some of their policies and procedures. What are their geographical locations? What's the depth and breadth of the relationships that they have? So this report is going to highlight how these delegated underwriting authorities are differentiating themselves in the market, and what are the outcomes, and have they been consistent, and are they stable?
No, that makes good sense. It was fascinating reading, just like thinking about all of the different dynamics that go into that. Shifting gears on you here a little bit, Dawn. There's lots of reporting out there about how much private equity money is flowing into the insurance industry. We're seeing it. In fact, there was a point where I think regulators had to be careful and pump the brakes on how much private equity was going on the carrier side of things, because that was creating some market dynamics. But when you start thinking about kind of the lower regulatory bar that exists for DUAs, we're starting to see private equity money is now flowing into those types of entities. I think I saw a report somewhere, it may have been in the AM Best report, that talked about the fact that it's attractive to PEs because the capital surplus requirements that you would have on the carrier side don't exist there necessarily for the MGAs. And so therefore, you get a higher return on capital. But as you start thinking about all that PE money coming in, what are some of the regulatory concerns that you think are essential that we have to ensure that these investments don't compromise the financial stability for insurers and then the broader market?
Right. So thinking about regulatory oversight practices that, they're essential to the goal of, financial stability of
Mm.
insurers in terms of that private equity investment. And, it benefits to have an enhanced disclosure.
Okay.
Disclosure is kind of like the key. I think it's the missing thing. A lot of regulators have follow the NAIC Model Act, where the acts of the MGA are interpreted to be the acts of the insurer.
Mm-hmm.
So you have some regulatory oversight that's flowing through there, but the disclosure is something that could really take it to the next level. And this could include detailed reporting on funding sources and really a general increased transparency in reporting. Can help ensure that financial risks are properly identified and managed.
Mm-hmm.
Oversight practices really could mandate investment structure and mandate it in a way that it aligns with both the interests of the private equity investors' short-term goals,
Right,
with the long-term health of insurance entities. And really, this could demonstrate private equity's commitment to the insurance sector's financial health by maybe having longer holding periods of investments. But there is a way to expand that. I think some states are looking into that, because especially as the delegated underwriting authorities play in the E&S market, it's more regulated by state. So it depends on the state that you're doing business in. It depends on the state that you are, based in as well.
Right. No, that makes good sense. That makes great sense. Another gear shift here. This wouldn't be an appropriate topic for my show if we didn't talk about technology, because that's an area obviously of huge focus. One of the interesting things, and that I've been reading about is when you think about DOEs and the fact that they're smaller, nimble entities, they're newer entities. They're able to take advantage of technology innovation at a much faster rate than carriers typically can, and that's kind of been an advantage that I've been watching that these entities are exploiting here. But as you start thinking about these new technologies, data and analytics, predictive modeling, Gen AI, all of those different things that all come to the table to enhance the overall risk management or risk selection process. How do you see the evolution basically continuing to shape the DUAE space? And what are some of the things that you think AM Best can play in terms of, what are the roles that they can play in terms of enhancing, or rather assessing these technical advancements?
Technology is going to continue to be the catalyst of change in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
As we look at, AI, machine learning, when you look at, like you said, predictive modeling, I think all of those things will continue to be at the forefront of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we have to think about the cost that to continue to stay on the forefront of that. Technology develops so quickly, every couple of years. So are we going to be making these type of investments every 2 years that cost a lot of money? And then you have to kind of catch up everyone else. So the carriers, we already know that they work based off of their legacy systems. And it's really kind of hard to get that ship moving. Smaller DUAEs that use and take advantage of the most modern technology are able to be a little bit more nimble, able to be more flexible in how they use it. So that's something that we have to be mindful of. But I definitely feel that with technology comes the talent to use that technology. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to continue to create new products. They're going to continue to make underwriting processes more efficient. And so I believe that this can only help the industry. In terms of AM Best and how we see our position in the industry, is really to be here to watch the market changes, to watch the technological changes, and watch those trends to see how is it affecting the industry? How is it affecting the carriers? Does it affect their stability in on the financial front? Are they able to pay claims? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? Mm-hmm. Are you able to pay claims? And any company that comes in to work with insurance carriers, at the end of the day, you have to kind of have that same mindset. We're here to to innovate, create new products, and take care of policyholders.
Got it. Yeah. Well, and it's funny you mentioned policyholders because that's an area that I'd love to focus on here. And so as you start thinking about how these DUAEs become an increasingly important and involved part of that distribution channel, what are some of the dynamics that you think insurers need to be thinking about as they consider where they're placing their business, placing their risks, and then the involvement of DUAEs? What are some things that consumers can be thinking about? I'm sorry, just to elaborate on the question, when I think of as an insured, how do I even know that my business is being placed through a DUAE, and should I care? What counsel would you offer in terms of an insurer, in terms of how they think about it?
That's very interesting because the big answer is it depends.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a more tailored insurance experience where you have a broker, they should be letting you know, right? Where and how they're placing your business. But because the way the industry is moving, where everything is much more collaborative, sometimes you're not going to be able to tell because it kind of bleeds into each other.
Mm-hmm.
The MGA is writing this paper for the carrier, writing on the paper of the carrier. Sometimes the relationship between the broker and the MGA is going to grow to be where sometimes they may be all in one, an all-inclusive experience. So as from a policyholder's perspective, I think that policyholders' main concern will always be, if something happens to my home, my car, my assets, whatever it is that I'm trying to insure, will it be covered?
Right.
Will it be taken care of? And as long as the DUAEs and their capacity partners are on the same page in regards to their underwriting guidelines.
Sure.
And making sure that compliance is there when writing business, policyholders don't have anything to worry about.
Right. What I'm hearing kind of takes us back to, one of the other topics we were talking about, where it's really all about making sure that relationship between the carrier and the MGA is one that, or the DUAE, is one where there is a lot of oversight. There's a lot of communication. There's constant analysis, particularly on the carrier side, in terms of how that underwriting authority is being leveraged, et cetera. And as long as we keep that constant, as long as we are diligent in that space, policyholders should be okay. That's kind of what.
Absolutely. So when I think about our performance assessment for Delegated Underwriting Authority and how the process is set up to kind of help the market in general, right? Market in general being all the stakeholders outside of the Delegated Underwriting Authority themselves, it really offers a tool to, one, benchmark the market for best practices.
Okay. And
the best practices are the things that keep everyone in line and in sync for the overall goal. In terms of policyholders, and I don't know if they know this or not, but you can access a lot of this information directly through AM Best's website. So, a lot of the information is there and available for people to read if they want to.
Sure.
But then you also have your brokers, you have your agents, you have the Delegated Underwriting Authority, you have a lot of these entities that are able to access tools like the performance assessment, which really gives an objective, non-credit view into the operations of a Delegated Underwriting Authority and how they're able to write business on behalf of their capacity partners. It offers a lot of information on the long-term goals and stability of the companies that are writing this business in the market today.
That's awesome. Thank you for that, Dawn. I want to ask you two questions that were not in the pre-show notes. So if you need to take some time to think about it, or if you want to decline, just let me know. But I want to ask you a question about about AM Best's kind of product roadmap in this space, kind of like what's coming next. What can we be thinking about as far as the next evolution of the performance assessment?
I think that the performance assessment for delegated underwriting is still very new. So there's still a lot of traction to go in this field. I think that the idea of looking at the operations of the companies and stakeholders that support the insurance industry is really important. So as far as what specifically is up next, that's to be told.
Yeah.
But I can see the growth of this product very much so. But it's still very new. So, there's a lot of ground to be covered. And really just the education of what the performance assessment is and what it means. Still trying to kind of clear up some of those misunderstandings about it not being a credit rating.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of work to be done on that front.
Thinking about the demographic of insurance professionals, this is a little bit of a non-AM Best, kind of a question here. A lot of my guests, we talk about the kind of the talent crisis in insurance, and just in general. Would love to get your thoughts just in terms of how do we attract the next generation of talent to come into the industry?
Very interesting question, because I feel that you need to start at high school, the high school level. I think that when you're a junior or senior, you're already deciding what you want to study in college.
Right.
And then once you get into college, kids change their mind, students change their mind about what they want to do. But a lot of times they don't really know about the industry and how dynamic it is. And I think that that is a missed opportunity when you overlook students at the high school level, talking to them about insurance, talking to them about the various opportunities that they could take advantage of. And that's kind of similar to the problem that delegated underwriting authorities have done in the industry. They have gone into those spaces of void where they're able to create products and create and push innovation. It's the same thing, approach to attracting a talent. Delegated underwriting authority sector has been immensely popular for underwriters who are looking for that entrepreneurial experience, or also looking at technology, because now they're needing data scientists, data mining, those who have experience in technology. So you can attract those students as well who I love technology. This is what I really want to do. But it explains to you that you can focus completely on technology and still work in the insurance industry. So I think that's really important. Some of the challenges that I feel the industry may encounter is really tenure. No, people don't stay in positions for 20 years the way they used to.
Right.
2 to 3 years has kind of been the turnover rate. And so you have to figure out how you're going to hold the attention of this younger generation that has the world in the palm of their hand.
I love that.
So that's my spiel.
I love it. You reminded me. I don't know if you know Rob Bird from Parent Night, but he was on the show not too long ago, and he mentioned a very similar thing about technology being this opportunity, this catalyst to reinvigorate the talent pipeline, because it's only been recently. I mean, my past gig as a CIO, I was managing applications that were written before I was born, literally. Now we've got, this advent now, this technological revolution that is permeating now even the insurance industry. And so my hope, and I think what I heard echoed in your comments, is that that's going to be something that will drive it and be a catalyst. But we got to help them understand that early on, as you mentioned. I know all of 2 people, I believe, in my entire insurance career that would tell you that they decided that they wanted to go into insurance when they went into college, and it was because they wanted to be actuaries. Forgive me, all my actuaries out there. I don't know what drives a person to want to be an actuary, but that's what it is. And they went to an actuarial program in college, and then they kind of went down the path. But I know 2 people.
Well, I'll tell you, I think I have an idea of why. They're paid well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let's figure that out. Absolutely. My son does that. He backs into kind of what's the highest paid stuff, and then that's what I'm going to go learn. That's awesome. Dawn, before we wrap up, what are there any topics, whether it's, relative to the performance assessment or anything else that's on your mind that you wish we would have covered that we can talk about?
No, I think there's so much to talk about with Delegated Underwriting Authority. I wish that it was talked about more. Every conference I go to or every event I go to, it's a relevant conversation. It really is. And when we look at, it's not a fringe sector. We're talking about nearly 10%.
Yeah.
That Delegated Underwriting Authority represents versus the entire total P&C market.
Right.
10%. And it's steadily growing. It's a dynamic industry that I don't think is going to face traditional market cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And that has already been the picture that has been painted.
Mm-hmm.
Over the last 10 years, it's just been steady growth. And while a lot of industry professionals have said, oh, we think it's going to drop, it hasn't yet. And I think that there's still more room to grow, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
In my personal opinion, I think that that's great. So I just think that we need to have the conversation a little more. Let's talk about it more.
I love it. I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, all the innovation that I see is coming out of the DUAE space. When you think about it, when you start thinking about, the product innovation, when you start thinking about the technological innovation and how folks are using it, I'm seeing a lot of stuff coming out of Europe, particularly London markets where these MGAs are growing steadily there as well. So fantastic. And I'm right there with you, and I'm happy to continue the conversation with you so we can continue to bring awareness to it. I also want to just, kind of commend you and the rest of the AM Best team, because I think that from an industry perspective, what you guys do, whether we're talking about the performance assessment for DUAEs, where we're talking about the carrier credit ratings, I think that, it's a great service that you guys provide to create that visibility, that transparency, that accountability in the industry. And to be honest with you, I wish more folks on the consumer side of things understood that that's what's going on, because insurance is always made to be, insurance carriers are big bad guys. They're always trying to, just take the money. But no, it's an important service that I think insurance companies offer. And I believe that, AM Best is doing some amazing work to bring that the right accountability and visibility to the work that we're all doing. So I want to thank you guys for that and offer a commendation. So awesome. Thank you so much, Dawn, for taking the time with me here on the show. I'm sure all of our audience is going to really appreciate everything that you brought to the table, and I can't wait to see you at the next conference. And maybe one day I'll share a stage with you, and you'll invite me, and I can pepper you with more questions.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining this episode of 5 Minutes. If you've enjoyed our discussion, we'd love for you to share it with anyone else you think might find it interesting. Also, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on and hit that bell to stay on top of the game with our practical 5-minute episodes. We look forward to seeing you again next week.